never going in the water.
Well, how come?
Right there. That's how come.
Oh, he's just sleeping.
Mm-hmm. He could wake up.
So welcome back to Gone Wandering. So today's trip starts off with a boat ride out to Biscayne Island, which is a national park. I guess I'd call it one of the northern keys. The only way to get there is by boat. So I'm going to have to say I was a little bit disappointed actually on Biscayne National Park. It's a 1-hour boat ride out and a 1-hour boat ride back, but you're only on the island for an hour. And the other thing that was somewhat of a surprise is that I actually started picking up litter on the island. Kind of disappointed about that. I guess that goes in keeping with my turtle video regarding if you see litter, please pick it up. On the positive note, the beaches are gorgeous. The color of the water and the sky, you almost can't tell the difference between the two. Really amazing, amazing to look at. On the way to Everglades National Park, you pass through Big Cypress going both ways. It's a wonderful spot to stop and look at alligators and manatees and tons of birds. Just a great, great area. We took this nice little boardwalk that goes through a swampy area. That bird just disappeared under the water. Where'd he go? He's gone. Where'd he go? What kind of a crazy bird is that? What we found. It's the Florida Trail, much like the Pacific Crest Trail. It goes from here up to, don't shake your head no yet. It goes from here all the way to Alabama. It's something like 1,400 miles through gators and snakes and...
Yeah, the PCT doesn't have gators and snakes. Well, they have snakes. They don't have gators.
They have bears.
There could be bears on this, too.
Well, I guess there could be bears here also. Anyways, what do you say we go for a short walk?
Behind you.
What?
Just kidding.
Oh.
Yeah, let's go for a short walk.
Let's go for a short hike. So, we haven't walked very far yet. In fact, maybe only about 1.5 blocks, 2 blocks. But I'll tell you what, this has already gotten pretty spooky because there's this little narrow path with vegetation on both sides, and I don't know what's over there. Where's our path? There's our path. Not much of a path. You can't see around the corner hardly. I mean, I can still hear trucks driving on the highway. We're that close. So, if you're watching this video, I guess we survived this hike.
Well, we have to go back still.
We have to go back still. But we've got swampy water on this side, a really overgrown path, and there's swampy water on the other side, which is hard to see right now. So this is a whole new adventure, I'll tell you what. Quite spooky.
So if you're saying that, then it must be really creepy.
Yeah, I'm looking forwards to bears again.
Because you never think anything's creepy.
There's a pathway where something has walked back and forth
Well, and so
into a bunch of swamps.
I think what we were surprised, there are panthers in this area too.
Yeah, there's about 100 panthers that live out here. Well, this is a bit of a hard call for us. At least for me it is.
Not for me.
It's not a hard call for Anna, but for me it is. I'd like to keep hiking. But our trail has disappeared. It's gone into water here. Not a lot of water, but some water. And so that means we're going to get pretty wet. I don't know, this might be an interesting adventure. I'd have to partnership with somebody that's been out in this kind of country before. But time to head back. So manatees are these beautiful mammals that spend most of their time, I guess, at the bottom, feeding on grasses. They never come out of the water, but they have to, they breathe oxygen. So they only catnap for like 20 minutes at a time, and then they have to come up and get air each time. But this also makes them incredibly difficult to try and photograph.
There's that one right here. There's two.
So we found out there's two things that manatees really like. They like fresh water, like tap water, and the other thing is warm water. So there's a power plant here, and they're dumping warm water, and so the manatees just gravitate towards this area. That's why there's so many of them here. We stayed in Fort Myers at a Boondockers Welcome location, and one of our day trips was out to Sanibel Island. The island is known for having massive amounts of seashells everywhere you look.
There's not enough seashells here.
Where you at?
Sanibel Island in Florida.
Nice.
It's very nice.
So Sanibel Island has so many seashells that they actually crush them, and they use them for the pathways that we're walking on. Isn't that crazy? The other thing Sanibel Island is known for are these huge mansions, but as it turns out, almost all of them are so well hidden you can just barely see them. With a lot of these small islands, it's difficult to get around because of the traffic. There was a a nice restaurant by the waterfront that we really wanted to stop at, but it was virtually impossible to park. So we ended up at another place that is more of a local hangout. Also on Sanibel Island is the Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge. This 8,000-acre park provides refuge for nesting and roosting birds. Today it provides habitat to over 245 different species of birds. There's a road that runs the length of the park. You could take a guided tram tour through that road. You can take your car for a nominal fee, or you can ride a bicycle. I think it's something like 5 miles from one side to another. I'm probably wrong on that though. The road is really, really pretty. You just drive like 5 miles an hour or something like that. And there's places along the way that you can stop, hop out of your car and look, and hop back in, drive a little farther and hop out. So it's set up really, really cool that way. We start off our last segment outside Thomas Edison and Henry Ford's summer estate, in front of this beautiful banyan tree. Thomas Edison bought the property in 1885, and the first thing he built was this pier, which allowed him to transport materials to his estate. As we come around the corner, we see Thomas Edison's pool, which he built in 1910. In 1928, Henry Ford financed the remodel of this area by adding the tea house and the bathhouse. The caretaker's house is one of the oldest buildings on the property and one of the oldest structures in Fort Myers. This is Thomas Edison's study. One thing that I didn't mention was that Thomas Edison used this property after he had invented the light bulb. But even though, I can imagine sitting in his office here, dreaming up the next invention. As we cross over the center courtyard, we head towards Thomas Edison's house on the left. I found it to be interesting that the left portion of his house had the kitchen and maid's quarters and this type of thing, while the right-hand half of the house had the downstairs being the living room, the family rooms, and the bedrooms upstairs. This beautiful wraparound porch went around the entire property. I can imagine just sitting out there on a nice summer's eve. The furniture in the house is all original. It stayed in the family until 1947, when Mrs. Edison deeded the property to the state of Florida and the city of Fort Myers. We're so lucky to have all of these treasures. Here's what the inside of the house looks like. There's one of his phonographs there on the table. And in the background you can see a record player there. Looks like dinner's been set for 10. I'm sure Ford and his wife was one of the honored guests. Originally, the home next to Edison was owned by one of his partners, but his partner had persuaded Edison to sell off a handful of his patents that he really didn't want to sell, but he agreed to it. What he found out a little bit later was that the partner had skimmed a bunch of money off the deal as kind of a finder's fee or whatever for doing the sale of patents, and that really upset Edison. So he cut the pipes and the water and everything, the electricity, to that house. Henry Ford purchased the home in 1916, providing him the opportunity to vacation with his mentor and friend, Thomas Edison. The good friends and their families enjoyed fishing, boating, and exploring the southwest of Florida. The Ford estate is a mirror image of Thomas Edison's, with the kitchen and the maid quarters in one building and the living quarters of Henry Ford and the bedrooms in another building. Ford kept many of his automobiles on hand and in this garage. The first one here is a 1921 truck, and the way that you would get it would be to contract somebody to turn your Model A into a truck. This wood truck here is a 1917 one-ton truck. Even though this was a summer getaway, it never slowed Edison down from working. Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Harvey Firestone were concerned about the Americans' dependence on foreign sources of rubber. As a result, they formed a corporation to try and solve the problem. Under Edison's leadership, the corporation sought a source for rubber that could be grown and provide a quick turnaround for rubber. After testing over 17,000 plants, Edison finally discovered a source in the plant goldenrod. There's also a museum which covers everything that Thomas Edison and Henry Ford had accomplished over their lifetime. But that could be a segment all in itself. So for now though, I'm going to have to say goodbye, and thank you for watching. Catch you next week.